So we really loved a tweet that was put out by Layne Norton. And you had this kind of concept called association absolutionism, which is just a mouthful. So thanks for making me say that.
You know me and my alliterations that are way too hard to say.
Yep. Should I read his tweet out loud so everyone can hear
ahead.
it?
Let's give those flowers.
So he said, protein ingestion stimulates mTOR and IGF-1, which are associated with cancer. Can't eat protein. Carbohydrate ingestion increases insulin, glucose, and inflammation, which are risks for type 2 diabetes. Can't eat carbs. Fat ingestion impairs flow-mediated dilation, which raises the risk of cardiovascular disease. Can't eat fat. Guess I'll just try to sit in the sun, photosynthesize, and hope for the best. Is this just like a joke that makes dietitians laugh, or are other people laughing too? I don't know.
It might not even be dietitians, but I think a lot of dietitians will find it funny. I really enjoy his sarcasm. Like Layne Norton is, as you know, he's one of I call him a virtual mentor or a virtual big brother. Like I've been following him since he was getting his PhD in the late 2000s when he wrote his first big blog. I mean, he's a brilliant, for those of you that don't know, he's a brilliant nutritionist. He has a PhD in biochemical nutrition sciences. So he is not a dietitian, which we as dietitians, we have been trained to counsel people, but he is an absolute nutrition scientist. And so that's the word nutritionist is a very vague term that a lot of people don't realize. Like any human in Pennsylvania could call themselves a nutritionist, and that's because it means nothing. He is an example. When you say nutritionist, you are saying it with massive compliments. Like he is highly knowledgeable. He's somebody that I think most people should follow on socials, like
1000%.
his understanding. Yeah, BioLayne on all the socials. But it's to say that he does have a really fun, cheeky side that I really enjoy. And this one hit me so hard because this is something that we are just living into the max, right? And it comes back to what I was alluding to earlier. As humans, there's this desire to have certainty. And in wanting certainty, we oftentimes create simplicity. And that concept, I'm calling it association absolutism, which is like you see two things interacting and then you go, okay, well, that's that. And then you move forward accordingly. And what ends up happening is you have all these different fad diets. And in a world right now where we have so many fear-mongered ingredients that are out there, we're living in something that I've been complimentary and cautious of, which is the Maha movement is forcing conversations that need to be had, but it is doing so in part by creating a fear around ingredients that is rooted in falsehood. Yep. And these three are perfect examples of what my critique of the Maha movement would be, is it's associations that sound very logical, that make a whole lot of sense at surface, but then you dig in and you realize that they're completely hollow and actually irrationally stupid a lot of the time. And you can do it with anything. He literally just gave a reason for us to just not eat food at a macronutrient level. And so you could see where it'd be super easy to do with food dyes, with ingredients that help with the stability of a food, with ingredients that, help with the homogeneity of a food. Like you could do this over and over and over again. And we have this eat this, not that culture where we're always looking for the quick point why we shouldn't eat something. And this just calls to attention that association is not declarative, right? So the concept of association absolutism is seeing two things interact and deciding that is an absolute relationship. And you can see in his cheeky post how dangerous that is. By that logic, we just shouldn't eat food. And one of my favorite ones, this was back in our research methodology master's days, is there's a really interesting correlation of ice cream consumption and theft. And so robberies and ice cream consumption both increase in the summertime. And you could either say that ice cream makes people eager to do crime, or you could say that crime makes people crave ice cream, or you could recognize that it's effing July and August and it's hot out, which makes people crave ice cream and also makes people very uncomfortable, highly temperamental, angry, and increases the risk of crime. And so that's an example of an association absolute where if you don't factor in the confounding variables and the complexity of the environment and the gray, you are going to come to a conclusion that is like objectively hilarious and also stupid. Well, do that at a national policy level. Now you're dangerous.
Yeah.
And so this is the type of stuff that I have been on the lookout for as I've watched Maha take place. Like I said, I'm excited to see the conversations. I've been very tired of Frosted Flakes somehow being healthy and avocados being bad for you. So like the gaslighting of the food industry days, I'm glad that that's being challenged, but I am also equally critical of the other side, which is this tendency to point at two things, ignore the confounding variables, ignore the gray area, and just make like a bold stance. And that's what influencers do all the time because it's super convenient. And it's what a lot of the current speakers of health and wellness that are being listened to largely because of social media are doing in an attempt to create simplicity. And all it does is it actually creates fear and it kind of distracts us from the real conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of just like social commentary on social media at large, which I think has largely driven a lot of this like misinformation because the scariest, most inflammatory things you can say are what are going to get the most views, unfortunately. And so that'll have subsequently the most influence. And what I see a lot in the health and wellness space, people who are interested and passionate and talking about nutrition and health and wellness without the actual scientific education as a foundation, is that they are citing real studies and real conclusions, like in this post, mTOR and IGF-1 associated with cancer, carbohydrate ingestion associated with insulin increases in type 2 diabetes. It's like these things may be true, but are they relevant? It was what you were saying.
Yeah, true but relevant.
And also I think they are drawing the wrong conclusions from real data.
Yeah.
Right? So like the fact that carbohydrate intake increases insulin and, chronically elevated insulin is associated with things like type 2 diabetes does not mean that we can't eat carbs.
Yeah, it's perfectly said. And I'm happy you brought up is it true? It's true, but is it relevant? That's a concept that I use a lot in my coaching and mentoring. And this is a perfect example. Yes, what he said is true. Is it relevant? I had a coach a couple of years ago, like a mentor of mine, that he used to call it TBU. True but useless, which is like, this is useless information. Is it true? Sure, but it's useless. And where this can get kind of interesting is you start to realize our role as practitioners is to help people navigate some of these things. Because a really interesting one that I'll say out loud is right now there is a massive push towards going keto or low carb when someone has cancer.
And because sugar feeds cancer.
Because sugar feeds cancer cells. That is true. Sugar also feeds all cells, and sugar also feeds your immune system. And so, in theory, does going keto slow the growth of cancer cells? Yes. Does it also slow the growth of everything else? Yes. So we enter this environment where assuming that is good for the battle could be true or not, noting that chemotherapy is the idea of poisoning yourself just enough to kill those cells and hopefully doing it as targeted of a way as possible. But largely right now, that's the piece that is still coming, right? But it's just to say that we can see there where even that is an intervention. There's like this assumption that we're strong enough to survive it. Same thing is true here. The idea of telling someone to stop eating sugar because they have cancer, that could be right, but that could also kill them.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you end up hearing the people that did it and survived to tell the tale. And it's no different than the person that wins the lottery, right? It makes you think you should play the lottery because that person won. It's real. It happened. But we don't forget that one person that won the lottery literally took the money of millions of other people that were probably too poor to buy lottery tickets in the first place.
They're not on the news, the people that don't win the lottery.
You don't hear about the people that lose. You only hear about the people that win. And the same thing's true with a lot of this stuff, is you'll hear the individual tale of someone that did something to their eventual benefit, and it becomes the you should too. And it's like our job, I always say we're Sherpas. We help people climb the mountain from a place of insight, is because the answer is never absolutely yes. It's well, let's dig into this a little bit. Let's think through this a little bit. Given your circumstances, is this association that we're talking about something that is a viable construct for you to move forward with? And the comment is, if you're a good coach, if you're a knowledgeable mentor, you're going to say yes to some people and no to other people.
Mhm.
To say only yes or only no is to show lack of understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like when a client asks me about intermittent fasting or fill in the diet trend fad question, my answer will change based on the person.
It's
Like,
it
for
depends
you,
energy.
no. For you, maybe.
Yeah. And that is, we have always said, show someone who has a hard stance that I show you someone that lacks understanding.
Yeah.
Hard stance on a, regardless of circumstance, that is a giant red flag.
Mhm.
And he does a great job in that post of calling attention to exactly why that's a red flag.
Totally.
Is because if we're going to play the game of association absolutism, there's going to be nothing left.
Mhm.
There will be no food to eat. And even water kills you if you drink too much of it and don't get enough electrolytes. It's called hyponatremia. And so, now we're not even drinking water. And then sun exposure, he was trying to photosynthesize, but more than 15 minutes a day, you might make too much vitamin D, your skin's going to get burnt. Now you're going to have skin cancer. So you just get to a point where we could literally do this all day. Anything in excess has a potential consequence. Health is a tightrope.
Yeah.
And you got to walk it carefully.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's good to have a safety net, and sometimes it's good to have a coach that's helping you reframe.
Dang, this is just a
Mic drops.
daggone plug
Yeah.
for Case Specific
Just-
over here.
Hey,
We can't help ourselves. Sorry.
It's almost like we see purpose and value in our own vision.
We do.
Whoops.